just New York. There's tons of squatter stories and scenarios that are popping up in even places like Texas. It is, and then maybe some of you saw that illegal alien that was putting out a call all in Spanish to all of his friends all over the world. Hey, come here. There are abandoned houses all over the place you can just walk in on and just, take a shit in the hallway, and it's yours by law. That's it. That's it. You think about all the things you have to do to to finalize a contract, finalize an agreement, to finalize a marriage. It's a traditional thing to say that until the wedding bed has been broken into, you aren't really married. Well, now when it comes to real estate ownership, all you have to do is sneak into the house, take a shit in the hallway, and it's yours. Probably. It's half a joke. But then the other half actually might be because there's some kind of a DNA claim. You can lay claim to the house because your DNA or something. It's been there for at least 5 hours. You just don't know. And of course, what is it rooted in? Absolute insanity. Demolitionist insanity. This is the wiping away of the old world. We can say, who is coming up with this? They must be. It's little things that dissuade and kick people out of the private property ownership game. That's it. It's going to look terrible. Terrible. Because, it's win by all means necessary for these people. That's always the way it is. That's always the way it is. And I think the sooner that people realize that they are not going to benefit from this, then maybe there can be a little bit of sanity and a little bit of unity regained. But don't hold your breath on that. Don't hold your breath. Here's the first thing up. I want to thank my sponsors again, BlueMonsterPrep.com. Everybody's prepping. Everybody's prepping. Even Ron Paul is talking about Black Swan events now, which is going to be the basis of the opening of tomorrow night's show when we have the Collins brothers on to talk about, the next phase of humanity and hoaxes and all this other stuff, aliens. It's going to be a big one. Where does it come from? I don't know. They're setting us up on several ledges, but go to BlueMonsterPrep.com and see what you can do to stock your basement of your house, your summer home, anywhere you can get away, far, far away from the blast radius of any cataclysmic event. Thank you. And also all of our other friends on affiliates on quitefrankly.tv. Everything you can think of is there. Almost everything you can think of. You can't buy chickens or quail. We were talking about that the other night. I have no room for chickens. Several people reached out and reminded me that quail is a very good alternative. That if I am slonking about a dozen eggs or so, I would only need about 60 quail eggs a day. So I would have to keep, instead of keeping like 6 to 12 chickens in cramped scenarios, I can opt for the smaller quail and keep about 89 of them in cramped scenario in my garage somewhere. Put it a little, so what do I do? Do I completely, what do I do? Whose lives do I ruin? A dozen chickens or like 6 dozen quail? I'll figure that out. I think I have some time. All right, let's get into in the grab bag. Is there anything else I have to announce as far as... We've got some great guests that are coming back. Collins Brothers tomorrow. Fleckus is coming back on Friday. On Monday, we're going to have open lines and some other things before book club starts. That's going to be great. Can't wait for that. Let's see here. Jay Gulanello, March 28th. We're going to be talking about resonant frequency, fasting, and all that stuff, because now they're coming after fasting. They're saying fasting is going to kill you. So many other things there, too. I don't know what we're going to do on March 29th. It's Good Friday. I want to have a Good Friday show. And then I'm figuring out all of the stuff that we're going to be playing on the website over Holy Saturday and Easter Sunday. But then when we come back, it's April Fool's Day. April Fool's Day that Monday, and my birthday's on that Tuesday, April 2nd. And then so much more. Jeff Harmon is coming back on the Eclipse Day. I got in touch with Jeff. I said, hey, by any chance, would you be able to stop by on April 8th? Maybe I can even get Robert Phoenix to call in during the second half. Any kind of, day of eclipse observations and societal, commentary, whatever's going on there. Larry Sharp is going to be in studio with us on April 17th. So we'll be able to talk with Larry Sharp about libertarian solutions to things like education and everything else that we spoke about years ago. But we haven't spoken to him since like 2016 or so. But now he's going to be in studio. That's going to be a great night. Matt from Cultivate Elevate is coming back. Bob Mata of the Defense Diaries is coming back. And more. I even have a friend of mine that I haven't spoken to in years coming in on Thursday, April 24th. We used to call him Bust-A-Nut. He was DJ Bust-A-Nut. But he is going to be in here. He used to watch us when we used to do our show from like 2007 to 2014 or something like that, and he was like a teenager. And now he is, well, I think he's probably close to 30, and he does backyard wrestling. He's been doing backyard wrestling for a long time. He's a nut. His name is Eric. Bust-A-Nut. He'll be coming in, and I just can't wait to get his life story on the thing and just talk to him about everything, about wrestling, because he does the backyard wrestling it is nuts. I can't imagine the kind of shit that he's seen, and I'm so surprised that he's in good health, and I'm grateful that he is, but he'll be coming in April. That'll be a wonderful time. All right, enough of me talking about all the great things we're going to be doing and the fun times that we're going to be having. Here's the first one up. Thomas Massey says, I have come to the conclusion that an economic catastrophe must happen before the majority of my colleagues will get serious about curbing out of control government spending. I don't know when these things will occur, but that will be the order of operations. Thomas, what if the economic catastrophe is the point? What we're staring at, common sense, anybody with common sense. Listen, there's a lot of very stupid people in government, but I would think that this is a lot more malice than it is ignorance to think that you can just continue spending like this when the income doesn't match the expenditures, and think that that is going to lead to anything else except a cataclysmic and transformative event, which is the whole point here. Now, maybe he doesn't want to get that conspiratorial because he's seen how the sausage is made, and he probably doesn't trust that the people around him that he calls his colleagues are actually capable of assisting something like that. But sometimes a little bit of stupidity moves the shit along in the pipes. That's just it. But I think that ultimately this is all a big plan. Something else we have here from the Spectator Index today. There was a breaking news this morning. Actually, it was last night. Mexico said it will not accept migrants who are sent back into Mexico by Texas under its new immigration law. Not going to take anybody back. Get a load of that. I would shut down the border. I've said it many times. I would take all the hundreds of thousands of soldiers we have all over the world that is not the United States or any of its territories, and I would bring them home and physically put them at the border so that there are literally no gaps, none. Hundreds of thousands, deploy all the technology there is. That's it. It's done. And then the deportations would be staggering. And they would just be dropped on the other side of the Mexican border, on the other side of our military blockades. And that's it. Walk in that direction. And then the economic war with Mexico would really begin. Okay? It would really begin. And it would just be about restoring constitutional order. No more foreign aid. Maybe I would play a little bit with tariffs. Maybe I would. Because this right here, that's ridiculous. Can you imagine being a country saying, no, please, you better not dump these people back into our place, the place that they could have prevented them from coming into. They watch as hundreds of thousands, millions of people walk right through their long-ass country to get to a target country, which is supposed to be their friend. They are assisting in an invasion. They say no takebacks, no refunds. Get the hell out of here. Oh, man. Oh, man, it would. And people who cheer this on, the self-loathing assholes who cheer this on, they're the worst part of all this stuff. You expect supranational criminals to plot like this. You really can't prepare yourself for the kind of eye rolling you see coming from people that you once grew up thinking were intelligent. The eye rolling. All right, let's see what else we have here. Listen to this pathetic story. Here's a headline. A student persuaded his friend to get his legs amputated for a $1.3 million insurance scam and wound up getting only $7,200 that he now has to return. Think about the desperation to even think that this is a good idea. A student in Taiwan had his legs amputated to claim a $1.3 million insurance payout. But how could you, what did he cut it off himself? He, in hopes of a $1.3 million insurance payout, has been arrested on suspicion of fraud. The 23-year-old, identified only by his last name, Zhang, plunged his feet in a bucket of dry ice for more than 10 hours to get them so badly frostbitten that he would need a double amputation. The Bureau said that a friend of Zhang from high school, identified only as Lao, persuaded him to carry out the insurance scam, and Lao, also 23, suffered losses from trading cryptocurrency, and he tricked Zhang into signing a legal note obligating him to pay about $800,000. So he was going to take $800,000 of this kid's $1.3 million, and the other kid had to give up 2 legs for it. We have to be talking about people who are mentally ill, or in some case, in some way, learning disabled or something. I mean, there has to be something going on here, aside from complete desperation. Because it wasn't like one of those people who identify as a disabled person. This is an insurance scam. You know, here in America, people aren't even thinking up things like this to get money. They're thinking of things like this because they actually feel like they identify as crippled, and they want to cripple themselves. So, I don't know. As crazy this is, at least it has more sense than what's going on over here with girls shitting on the front lawn thinking they're dogs. And then here's one more thing for you that I'm just going to throw out there. Could America's squatting crisis spill over into bloody violence? Well, I'm going to ask that question of you on the other side of the opening, because Megan Fox is going to be joining us very soon, and I think that I can actually just throw this her way because she deals in crime, she deals in American society, and trends as well, so she must have something she could opine on here. So that's what we're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, please share the show wherever you're watching it, and please enjoy yourself. I love every night that we have together. Thank you so much, and we will be right back.
This is Max N. Caparato at 12,060 feet. You can get as high as I am by watching the Quite Frankly podcast.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Yeah, we're making pretty good time. I told Megan Fox that we would be starting our call at 7:15, and it is 7:17, so I hope she will not hold it against me Megan is joining. This is the first time that we're seeing Megan since Christmas, and when she submitted a wonderful message to everybody. It was one of my favorite messages. She wasn't feeling very good. Megan, are you feeling better tonight?
I wish I could say yes. I've had a horrible pinched nerve
Oh,
that flared up in the last like since yesterday. So I barely got out of bed today. But I decided I'm here for you, Frank.
oh my gosh! Now, how did you pinch the nerve?
Who knows? I don't know. How do these things happen? I think, frankly, it's a combination of, writing for 20 years and being in front of a keyboard and, not being active as much as you should be.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you it. I understand that I'm getting a bit older myself. I'm going to be 39 on April 2nd, but I will tell you that since my days, once I really started being able to do this writing full time for this show, and I no longer had to do any personal training, and I used to have to write this show in little maybe 2.5 hour blocks, and I would go out, I'd train a few clients, I'd meet them in a park somewhere, whatever, and I would take those breaks during the day. I'd be on my feet, I'd be working out with them, I'd be doing, and it really helped me to stay upright. Now that I'm spending 8 hours or more a day in this flexed position sitting down, the maintenance is becoming a lot more necessary because you lose so much footing
So
physically.
much. So, it's being active is really a big part of it. I went back to waiting tables a while ago, and it really got me out of pain just because I was walking so much. And then the restaurant business died out because winter's here. It's cold in New York today. Oh my God. I'm like, I let the fire go out on accident. Oh, that's never a good thing.
You're a little bit farther
when
up.
is summer coming, Frank?
It doesn't come for us officially. What we usually get, because you're a couple of hours upstate, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So down here in Westchester, what we usually get is a couple of really solid weeks from that last week in April into about maybe mid to 3/4 of the way through May. We get a couple of solid weeks there. That's when we get the cherry blossoms and all that stuff. And then we go straight into asphyxiating summer. So we go from winter to a very brief moment of taking a deep breath of fresh spring air. And then it is suffocating humidity until October.
We had a couple of those days, spring days. That was about 50, 60 degrees. One day almost got up to 70, and now we're in a blizzard again. It's second winter here in upstate New York.
It's March. What are you gonna do?
I hate it.
It's March. I was just telling that with a buddy of mine because we're supposed to be getting together at usually 8:30 in the morning on a Thursday. We'll go work out for an hour and a half, but 8:30 in the morning tomorrow is gonna be 25 and windy. And
Oh God.
yeah, it's the whole 90 minutes is just one big warm up. You just have to keep the engines going the whole 90 minutes, or else it sucks. Anyway, let me ask you something before we get into these cases that you're covering that are so dynamic as far as the details and the impact on some of them at least. But squatting, I've been covering this a lot. Obviously, New York has an issue, but this is something that is starting to get a lot of reporting done in red and blue states alone. This whole idea of squatters' rights. I did a little bit on it again last night, and today they're asking the question in the media: could America's squatting crisis spill over into bloody violence? Pretty much vigilantism, where people show up to get literal bums that have snuck into a house and just gone to sleep there, and now they have more rights than the homeowner. Homeowners are getting arrested for changing the locks on their house because somebody, while they were on vacation, went in there and took a crap in the hallway, and now it is legally their home. Have you covered anything on this? Because it seems like it would fall into your wheelhouse in some way. It's almost like CPS.
I think I did a while ago because there was it depends on what state you're in, that the laws are different in each state. And of course, New York is so crazy. But squatter laws are very strange. I do know that over COVID, they stopped doing evictions for a long time, and they're still getting caught up on that. And eviction law is really difficult as well. It really punishes the landowners, the the owners of the property. But these squatter laws go even further than that, because at least when you're talking about rentals and, this is a place that somebody rented. And so there may be a dispute there. And so it should take a court process, to figure it out. But when you're talking about someone who just breaks into your house and then suddenly they have rights, what?
Yeah.
It really hasn't come across my desk all that much. I hadn't heard of it recently until you mentioned it. Um, but I know that there's problems with it. So,
Oh, I'm sure you're going to see it a lot more because it's becoming one of those rallying cries for this rise in what I call bum culture over here. Where and then of course it wouldn't exist if it weren't for the fact that, for example, you cover a lot of travesty that has to do with CPS and organizations like that, where at the basis of it there is a complete misprioritization of everything. But all the wrong things are not all the wrong
right.
things are prioritized, I should say. And in this case, again, you have authorities that are prioritizing criminals over normal people. And only this time, it just infuriates me, and it's been keeping me up, to be honest. But anyway,
That's our new culture.
It is.
We live in a culture, you call it bum culture. But the government does care more about criminals than they do about law-abiding citizens. I think that's really true. And when it comes to CPS cases, they're always favoring abusers over non-abusers. I don't know why. Recently, I don't know if you know that umbrella guy, but he's in mental health, and he's been really upset the last week. He's been trying to get some CPS attention for some very high-risk children, and nothing. They don't care.
The umbrella guy?
Yeah.
I don't
Do
know.
you know that umbrella guy?
I don't think so. Maybe I do. I don't know. Can you?
He's got a big YouTube channel. He came to most people's attention during the Johnny Depp trial because the defense attorneys referred to him as the head of Johnny Depp's Twitters. He's just a guy on YouTube who reports on Johnny Depp. And they started naming him in the trial, and it was just really funny. But he works in mental health on on his off time. And it's funny, CPS, you can call them and say, hey, I know these kids are in danger, and they won't lift a finger to help. Yet then they swoop in the hospital with a kid with an underlying metabolic disorder that no one can figure out. And they say, oh, it must be the parents abusing them. So they take them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's, in another case I'm working on, 13, 14 phone calls to CPS, everybody saying, like a Ruby Frankie situation, people online are saying, hey, this kid's in danger, and DCF could care less. They haven't done anything.
Yeah, and then of course at the end, you ask your question: what is it that triggers response, and what is the actual modus operandi there? What is the mission statement for all this? Is it just media attention? Is it just public relations, or what is it? It's just nuts. It's nuts because you think common sense would just prevail over all this stuff. It'd be really easy, especially if you all have all those resources at your disposal. All you would need is just some common sense. Help people who need help, and punish criminals. And
leave innocent people alone. Look at the people in Chicago right now. They're losing their minds because the illegal immigrants are taking over all of their housing. They're taking over all of the benefits that were set aside for, supposedly for poor Chicagoans, are now all going to these illegals who have no right to be here. And the inner city neighborhoods, they're freaking out. They're like, wait a minute, wait a minute. But the best part is when people ask them, well, who did you vote for? And they'll admit it. Oh, I voted for Biden. Well, this is your fault. This is your fault.
Yeah, it's one of those things too with for me, I look at that as one of those opportunities to hopefully somebody will say, okay, how can I change my personal representation in the world up? How can I at least liberate myself from voting for one or two parties and being just kind of limited in my identification, how I identify myself out there in society? I think that is the most important thing, because still, I don't believe that voting actually makes these people presidents. So I started thinking about that. I started thinking about, oh, well, you get what you vote for. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, they have pledged allegiance to a ridiculous organization of people. But did their vote actually put them in power?
Yeah, we'll never know.
You never know. It's impossible to verify. So I think about that all the time. So like you said, hopefully the big thing there is that individual people with hearts and minds actually start reflecting on what their hamster wheel patterns of behavior have done to perpetuate this craziness and actually make it worse. I want to ask you about this What the Hales case.
Yeah.
Let's start with that.
This case is so crazy.
Now, you wrote on
so
this.
So crazy. Yeah, I wrote about it. I had seen there were followers of mine who were just freaking out and sending me message after message on Twitter. You got to cover this case. You got to cover this case. But I tried to look into it, and What the Hales has so many videos on what's going on and the corruption that they found in Florida that I couldn't make any sense of it. And then Larry Foreman, who has a YouTube channel, DUI Guy, he did an interview with them. It was like an hour and a half, and that really kind of summed it up for me. And I was able to write this article about it. And I started watching all the court hearings that they were involved in front of this judge, Craig DeThomasis. So the TLDR on this one is What the Hales has a big YouTube channel. They're like 700,000 followers. It's basically just a vlog of their lives. And it goes from treasure hunting to going to town hall meetings and, showing people what it's like to be a landowner, helping people start businesses. And they do a lot of charity work, giving away toys and gifts to kids who are underprivileged. And they just seem like really nice people. Well, they buy this property in Florida. It's like 70 acres in this really tiny little place in Florida. And he bought it there strategically because it was near some bigger cities that he can drive to and go to his auctions. And it turns out that they moved into a place with just the neighbors from hell. So according to Jeremy, he's got a stalker who was a fan and found out he was moving kind of nearby her in Florida. And then she stalked him to this little town, sold her property, and bought property right across the street from him.
Oh, boy.
And she claims to have had a turtle rescue. And she knows that he likes turtles and that he's very big into, philanthropy and helping rescue animals. And so he believes that her plot was to, pull on his heartstrings, tell him she had this turtle rescue and get him to offer her free labor and, money or whatever it was. And when he finally said no to her after helping her out, that she and her live-in boyfriend started to stalk them, harass them, send them constant messages, emails, text messages, and it was aggressive, including one of them pulled a gun on him and just harassing him and his fiance. So he went to get a restraining order against these two. And a side story to this is that they have a 4-year-old that was adopted, and they're living in a shed across the street from him. Like literally, they have a baby in a shed in Florida, no air conditioning, no ventilation.
The stalkers, they have adopted a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And they're living in a little shanty across the street from them.
Literal shanty. We call it turtle purgatory. There's like dirty pools with turtles and a trailer.
The turtle aspect is so weird.
I know. Welcome to Florida. There's just methery everywhere. And this little town is it's so sad. Otter Creek. There's not a restaurant in town. There's like a bait shop and a broken down gas station that they turned into a post office, if that gives you an indication of the size of this place. The residency is like 100 people. And and yes, they're in their 60s. The neighbors are in their 60s with a 4-year-old adopted daughter that allegedly they met her parents on Facebook, and it was a private adoption. The biological family is not happy with what's been going on in the videos that we've seen. And the reason why we've seen onto her property is because Fish and Game went out there to cite them wearing body cameras because of the turtle mess and the pools being dirty and whatnot. So Jeremy goes to get a restraining order, which is reasonable. And Florida says no. Florida tells him, no, you can't have one. And for whatever reason, they turned him down. And they turned him down a couple times, I think. So his state of residency is in Ohio. That's where his main residence is, and he winters in Florida. So he went to Ohio and he asked an Ohio judge. And the Ohio judge gave it to him. He gave him a permanent injunction against these people for um, stalking and cyber stalking and harassment. And that order is supposed to be good in all 50 states. Well, he goes back to Florida. He's got this order and he asked the court to enforce it. And they're basically like, no. And the cops won't enforce it either. So the two people keep on coming within the distance that they're not supposed to and, harassing and the whole thing. It continues. And now this woman, her name is Lynette, she goes and she files a cyber stalking order against Jeremy because Jeremy, his only recourse is to put them up on YouTube. So basically he's telling his audience, look, this is what I'm dealing with. And he films their behavior and he tells people, this is what I'm dealing with. These are the nutty people who live near me and they're making my life miserable.
I gotta say, Megan, I don't know about you, but especially if I would just I would have already gotten out of town. I would have already packed up and
too.
I would have already moved out of town. You're like you're two, Jeremy and George. They are two of 100 people in town, and the other two people out of the 100 are people who are stalking. I would get the hell out.
I know.
Too claustrophobic.
I've had this conversation with him. It's like, can you just sell? Can you just move? I mean, you moved into a place that has clear problems with drugs. If you go on Google Maps and take a walk around Otter Creek, you just can't even believe the number of burned out shanties. And it's like a one cow town that looks like the only motivated people there are the people in law enforcement and the people trying to get their drugs. You know?
Jeez.
It's not good. It's not good. But he invested his money and he doesn't want to, I guess, give it up before he's done. So she files this injunction against him. And they go to court for the first hearing. And she's allowed to put all of her supposed evidence on the record, all of it. And it goes on for 2 hours, Frank. 2 hours. And then she's pro se. She has no attorney. This goes on for 2 hours while she just is giving the judge no evidence, just her sad tale. Basically, oh, he's so mean to me and he puts me on YouTube and he says terrible things about me. It's like, well, ma'am, it is a free country. That's what she should have been told. It's a free country and you shouldn't be, if you don't like the way he treats you, maybe you should leave him alone. How about that?
He's got the big. He's
He's got a big channel.
You're expressing your displeasure with him. The only thing is that he has more people that listens to him when he complains, and that's just really what it comes down to. But the real aside from the fact that there really is no injured party here as far as she goes, and it's all frivolous nonsense. The real thing that has come forward now is the behavior of the judge presiding over this. Tell us about this guy.
Oh.
What the hell is it? This is the guy that everybody needs to know about.
This guy.
Because his behavior.
Craig DeThomasis is such a disgrace to the bench. He was appointed by Ron DeSantis, so he was never elected. He tried to run for office before, but he lost. He used to be a defense attorney. He used to teach in law school, which you can tell. These, if you've ever heard a law professor speak, they love the sound of their own voice. And this is this guy completely. And I have shown his hearings to everybody I know in LawTube. Every lawyer who has watched this hates this judge, hates him. He talks to hear himself speak. He does not let the defendant ever respond to anything the plaintiff is saying in this case. He has shown absolute bias toward the plaintiff. When a plaintiff is pro se, the judge is supposed to give them more leeway, right? They're supposed to kind of help them out, but you're not supposed to be their attorney. You're not supposed to be the attorney for the plaintiff and help her, get over legal hurdles she doesn't see. And because that's your risk you take when you go pro se. And man, he just behaves like he is her lawyer. We call it litigating from the bench. And also, he hates Jeremy's lawyer. He has some kind of personal problem with Jeremy's lawyer, and he interrupts him constantly. He screams about his co-counsel and something that happened in another thing. It's nuts. Jeremy had to get rid of one lawyer because the judge hated him so much, and the plaintiff accused him of bribery, and the judge believed her, which is incredible. How could you believe this crazy woman who says that a member of the bar that practices in front of you tried to bribe her and you don't go, ma'am, don't be ridiculous. No, he's going to order an entire criminal hearing on it. He's going to hear, there's going to be a criminal hearing for this poor attorney who she has accused of bribery.
With no evidence, just an
None.
accusation. So here's the thing. So he's catering to one side for some reason. I start wondering. You said, well, is there an issue with the attorney? Is there some kind of a grudge or something? But it almost sounds like he has something out for Jeremy and George.
Well,
You know,
he doesn't like that they're YouTubers. He's made that very clear.
he doesn't like the way that they make a living.
Right.
And why is that such a threat? They're not political YouTubers. They do like auction, storage unit auction stuff and whatever. I don't understand this, because along with all of this really crazy behavior has been the gag orders. I noticed that about this too, where he's ordering them not to speak about it anywhere. They can't talk about it on their YouTube. Anytime that they use footage from the court, he reprimands them, wants to punish them for this. Like, why is it for a trial of this small stature, is it becoming that he wants this to be a secret, zipped up trial behind closed doors? What the hell is this? It seems very sadistic.
He has this strange idea in his head that his courtroom is not a public arena, but it is. This is a public proceeding. Everything in it is public. And he hasn't been able to stop him from putting the hearings online, but he will scream and yell in the hearing about how you have published this online, and he put pieces of the deposition online, which are hilarious, Frank. Oh my Lord, they got her in a deposition and she's just screaming at the camera the entire time, total nonsense and swearing and stuff. It is so funny. But he put a couple clips of that online and the judge about lost it. I think the most important thing, and because there's so many ins and outs to this case, but the main overall problem is that Jeremy's lawyers have asked this judge to recuse several times. They've asked him 3 times because of the appearance of bias. Whether the judge is biased or not, he should have recused already because there is the appearance of it. And one party in his courtroom is feeling like he's getting an unfair trial. And he is. They've been to 5 hearings over 6, 7 months now, and he has still not been able to put one shred of evidence on the record about his case because the judge spends 45 minutes going over all of his grievances with Jeremy's lawyers first, and they never get to it. They never get to the defense. So he hasn't recused. Now it's in an appeals court, so the whole thing is frozen. Meanwhile, Jeremy has a temporary injunction on him as if he's a threat to this woman. You know what that means, Frank? They took away his guns. And he's under threat all the time by these people and their weird friends. They tell him they're going to shoot him.
So
and he's not allowed to have guns.
This is First Amendment now. This is Second Amendment now. Mm-hmm. What other territories is it going into?
His right to travel. So he cannot drive on his own road that connects to his driveway. The judge will not carve out an exception in the injunction to let him drive on his own road.
Wait, he can't leave his house, or he just can't drive?
He can't drive on the main road. He can go out a back way, but that means that he has to go onto a really dangerous intersection where there's like accidents all the time because of the meth heads and whatever. And he's always filming all the accidents there. And the judge has kept him from being on his own property too, because at one point, I think he's tailored it a little bit more, but the first injunction was he couldn't be on pieces of his property that were less than 500 feet from hers.
You see,
his own property.
You see, when we watch something happen to somebody of the public standing of like Donald Trump, somebody of that stature, that size, okay, this is a reminder. Now, here is a couple, this man and woman, Jeremy and George, that is, they're making a nice living. They have a decent sized YouTube account. They service a very specific niche as far as content goes. They're making a nice living. They're living their life out there. And then suddenly their life takes a turn where they are caught up in this mess with a obviously unstable person. And now, if it weren't for the fact that they have some sort of a platform to be able to talk about this would be another one of God knows how many instances that crazy, abominable courtroom antics like this are going on all over the country right now. and with people who just don't have a voice to bring it to a
That's
public
so
square.
true. That's so true. There's so many issues like this where judges are taking away constitutional rights of parents and other people in front of them, and there's no one to speak for them. There's no one to talk about it. Thank God they have a YouTube channel and they've been able to expose a lot of it. You know what else came out? I didn't even send you this article, but the second one that I wrote about this case, it exposed a side story about the Eighth Circuit Court. So I start looking into Judge DeThomas's. And I find something where he's involved in speaking on behalf of another member of the bar, a former prosecutor in Florida, who was caught. Frank, you're gonna love this. This dude snuck into a tanning salon. Well, went to a tanning salon, goes into a booth, and then a woman comes into the booth next to him, and he sneaks up on top of it's like the ones with the open ceilings, and he starts filming her over the top of it.
It was
Filming
a
her.
standing booth.
I don't know if it was a standing booth, but some of those booths, they're like
Open.
separated. They have open ceilings,
Yeah.
like so you could, it's a bad idea. If you're building a tanning salon, please enclose the rooms. But he snuck his phone over the top and was recording her. He got caught. She saw him and screamed.
My gosh.
And this guy was a prosecutor in the Eighth Circuit, which is where this is all going on. Now, that was in like 2015. Well, he gets arrested. They have him on video, so there's no doubt whether he did this or not. And he resigns right away, and the bar takes his license away. The judge orders that his license be removed. Well, he then gets a bar hearing, and who comes to speak for him but Judge DeThomas's? Five other sitting judges on the Eighth Circuit, a handful of prosecutors and women's rights prosecutors, like special victims unit prosecutors. They all go and they speak on his behalf, and they say things like, "This was in his private time. It has nothing to do with his professional life."
Whoa. What, you say even women's rights prosecutors?
Yeah, the chief division head of his name is Hechevarria. His last name is Hechevarria. The chief division head of crimes against women and children, and someone who works for him, a woman, go and testify in person on this pervert's behalf. And his name is William Ezel, the lawyer that did this. And you know what I find? I keep digging, I'm digging, I'm digging, and I find I have a source in Florida who's an attorney who sends me a document. I about fell out of my chair. He somehow got Rick Scott, the governor at the time, governor of Florida, to seal his criminal records. And they didn't take his law license away. They gave him a 90-day suspension, and the guy is currently practicing as a defense attorney in Gainesville. And get this, his wife was just appointed by Ron DeSantis to some electric board without any qualifications, and she had to step down because it was so controversial. So we're talking about, so who are these people? Who are the Ezels? And why are they so important that two governors have advocated for them?
Yeah. Two. That's incredible.
Weird, right?
The weird is, oh man. And of
There's
course,
some serious shit going on in Lee County.
that is some serious shit. And again, on the surface of it, it's look at this, a strange story about YouTubers that are defending themselves against a very stalkerish kind of neighbor thing going on over here. There's a weird angle of a turtle farm or whatever, and if you don't dig farther than that, then it's just one of those obscure stories that comes into your view and then just goes away. And then of course here is obviously this big constitutional. The overhanging constitutional issues about what's being done to them, the gag order, all that stuff, and then all of these connections that goes miles deep, and it makes it all the way to the governor's mansion. That's just incredible. It really is.
It really is.
So what could we, real quick, because I want to go to the second one, I want to broach the second one before the intermission. What can we expect as far as the next steps in this case?
Well, if you want to get caught up on it, there's so many people on LawTube right now watching the hearings. We have hearings 1 through 5 that I've gone through them on my channel, and like Legal Vices is doing it on his channel. Nicholas Starro is doing it on his. DUI guy, Larry Foreman, you could go there and get caught up because Larry Foreman has a bunch of interviews. I've interviewed the Hales. Like, just check out our YouTube channels because there's so much. I have an entire playlist about it. And what's coming up is we're waiting on the appeal. We're waiting on the appeal to see if the judge needs to get kicked off the case. And once that happens, then there might finally be a resolution. But we could be talking another 15 months. And in that time, is he going to have this injunction on him and not be able to carry a gun in Florida in this tiny, crazy meth town? It's just nuts.
It,
So
it,
just stay tuned.
when you have an injunction, I have to imagine that moving farther away would be allowed if the whole thing is about maintaining distance between two particular parties. I really hope that in the meantime they at least get another 25 miles away.
I hope so too. I hope
Jeez.
so too. I think that they'll probably end up spending more time in Ohio. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like Jeremy, he's stubborn. He's digging in his heels and he knows he's right and he is right. And he shouldn't be chased out of this town that he just happened to, find a nest of vipers in. But then again, when you're dealing with these old boys clubs, sometimes, the South is as scary as they say it is. So it is not unheard of for people to just go missing on 70 acres. I feel like they should just get out, but they're grown-ups and they can figure out what they're going to do. But it's very odd. And I found several stories now connected to this, and people are coming forward every day to say, the Eighth Circuit is a cesspool and there's corruption there. And I didn't even have to dig for 2 hours before I found it.
Man, and are you in touch with Jeremy and George? Like, do you actually
Yes.
Okay, so you talk fairly on the regular?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That
Yes. All the time. And they've been trying to tell this story for a year and a half and nobody noticed. And then all of a sudden LawTube, saw what was going on with this judge. And now it's really kind of making like wildfire across YouTube. So they're finally getting people to hear their story. And I think they're really happy about that because they felt very alone for a long time, even with the subscribers they have. They have a lot of subscribers, but the wider audience hasn't heard about it. And this can't continue. The way the judge behaves, the way he behaves to the attorneys, his demeanor, he really needs to be impeached. The legislature won't ever do it, but they have the power. It's too bad they won't exercise it.
Well, maybe there's a little bit a little bit more hope in a place like Florida than other places, as long as there can be some attention, some light shown on the whole thing. But we will keep up to date with you, and maybe we'll even be able to get in touch with Jeremy and
Oh
and
yeah, I'll put
George.
you in touch.
That'd be wonderful to talk to them directly. Now here's another one, because we got 11 minutes until the top of the hour, so I really want to make sure we can just lay out the biggest parts of this and then maybe create a hook to come on to the second half. This fake pregnancy story with the Bachelor contestants. Can you please talk of this? This one is nuts. It has a little bit more attention on it because of the level of crazy. It goes into tabloid area. But I mean, until you brought it up, I never knew. And I would
Yeah.
love for you to give us the TDLR again, or DR again.
This one's fun. This one's fun.
Yes.
And it's an adult conversation though. So earmuffs on the kids for this one, because there's no way I can talk about it without getting into some specifics, okay?
Yes.
So here's your warning right now. If the kids are listening, send them out of the room.
Get those f***ing kids out of the room.
Okay. All right. So this all begins with Clayton Eckert, who was a former Bachelor, former NFL player. He didn't get a very good cut on The Bachelor. Like everyone hated him, I guess. I don't know why. I never saw his season, but there was some controversy and he wasn't very well liked, I guess, by the public. Well, he moves to Arizona. He gets his real estate license. He's not one of these bachelors who got real famous after it. It didn't set him up for life. Nobody offered him a podcast
Is
or
this him?
anything. Yeah.
Okay.
Like he's just trying to live his own life, become something.
Yeah.
So he gets his real estate license. He's had it for 1 week. Like 1 week, maybe two, and he's working for a company. And he gets a message on LinkedIn from a woman named Laura Owens who says, I want to buy these two properties. They're $1.4 million in investments, and I've been trying to get a hold of somebody at your firm, but nobody's calling me back. Can we work together? He's so naive. He thinks, oh my God, this is great. I'm gonna be successful in my first week. This is so exciting. So of course he contacts her, and of course if he had a maybe more, I don't know what it is. I don't want to say he's not smart. I don't want to say that, but he's not wary. We'll put it that
Naive.
way.
He's naive.
He's naive. He doesn't see the red flags already, like being contacted on LinkedIn. Clearly, she did her research.
Yeah.
So he meets with her. He takes her out to a couple of these properties, and he said she was flirty with him, but he's used to that. He's over 6 feet tall, and he's a former NFL player, and women like him. So he's used to getting attention from women.
He's strapping.
He's a strapping young lad. Yeah, exactly. So he goes home that night and she's still texting him and he's texting her and it gets flirty and he's taken a gummy. That was his first mistake.
When you say
His,
a gummy, we're talking cannabis?
yes.
Okay.
So he's taken a gummy. He doesn't drink much. He prefers cannabis. So he had taken a gummy. He said the text got flirty. She sends him a lewd or something.
Oh,
Of
no.
course. Gentlemen, beware. Okay? Just beware. And he tells her to come over. So she goes to his house and they have a fun evening filled with fellatio, apparently twice.
What?
I know. This is why I said get the kids out of the room.
2 rounds of fellatio?
Two,
Ah!
2 rounds. And that really is the funniest part ever. And the reason why this is important, like I'm not telling you this to be salacious. It's important in the timeline of events that we understand what exactly happened between these two. According to Clayton, she gave him fellatio. They had 5 hours in between where they ate dinner and like just hung out. And then there was another incident, and 5 hours later, that was the same incident. And no intercourse happened, according to him. There was none of that. He said the most he said happened was some naked grinding. She tells him, she goes home, I guess, and the very next day, he's supposed to meet with her to show her more properties. So he does, he shows her the property, and afterwards they're sitting in his car, and he tells her, I'm really sorry. We should not have done that last night. It was so unprofessional. I mean, we're working together and I'm not looking for a girlfriend and I shouldn't have done that. I'm very sorry. And
That's
she
not going to
started
cut it. That's not going to cut it. I can already tell you.
no. She started crying and having a fit. And he was like, "Oh, whoa, this is not normal. Like we don't even know each other. We've this shouldn't be happening right now." And but it did. So she didn't take it well. And she was, begging him to keep seeing her. And then maybe like 2 days later, she had said to him, or 5 days later, she said she was worried she was pregnant. 5 days. She texts him and says she's worried that she's pregnant. He's like, wait a minute, what? You can't be pregnant because we didn't have sex. You have to have sex to be pregnant. Well, she says there was some of your stuff down there, and I don't know. But of course, anyone with a science background was like, wait a minute. You're talking about the dried stuff that was there?
Anyone with a health class, anyone with a health class background from 6th grade.
Yeah, the math ain't mathing. That's right, Sarah.
Oh my
The
God.
math ain't mathing. So, but in the meantime, and there's so many other things that happened between this time. The entire time, before she even tells him she thinks she might be pregnant, she was threatening him with his job, saying, you said you were going to help me buy these properties, and you didn't put in my offers. And the reason he didn't put in her offers was because he had a bad feeling she was going to change her mind, which surely she did. And then she says, I'm going to go to the board, the real estate board, and I'm going to get your license because, you've violated your whatever the ethics or whatever.
Mm.
And then she does. Then she goes to the board. This is so like Fatal Attraction, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah.
So he rejected her and she starts ruining his life. Systematically ruining his life. She goes to the board, she goes to his boss. He now has an inquiry into him from the real estate board. He has to show up at like a hearing. Luckily, he had all the messages from her and he could show them that she was obsessive and, retaliatory. And the real estate board said, "Yeah, you violated this or that, but we're not gonna hold it against you because we can see that this is a problem." So he got out of that okay. But then 11 days later, she now says, yep, I'm pregnant and it's twins.
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 Like it couldn't have just been one old baby. It had to be twins.
And then she says, if you don't agree to date me, and here's the contract I wrote up that says you will date me with intention. If you don't agree to this and you don't sign this, I won't have an abortion, and I'll go to the media and tell them that you are a bad person, that you impregnated me. Yes, we call the chat's reminding me, I call them the tonsil twins.
What? Oh yes, of course. It's the only way it could have happened.
Mouth conceptions. There's so many fun jokes that go along with this story, but it's not fun for Clayton in any way. I want to point that out, that like we're not laughing at him. It's just that this situation is so ridiculous. But he basically, he fell into a relationship that he didn't want with a bunny boiler. And you think these things can't happen, but they can, and they do. And, maybe after the break, we will talk about when the news came out that she had done this multiple times before.
Wow. Okay. There you go. All right. There's our hook. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us over on pilled.net or quitefrankly.tv. Quitefrankly.tv is powered by pilled.net and Foxhole. We're going to have the very lovely Megan Fox on with us on the other side of the break. It won't take too long. It's 2 clicks. 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, and thank you so much for following us over, because this is just going to get better and better. And then we have more mixed media clips afterwards, and time for your calls. Don't go anywhere except there.
The rest of the show is available exclusively at pilled.net. Follow the link in the description of the episode, get signed up, it's that easy. Or head on over to quitefrankly.tv, just press play. No paywalls, no censorship, no strings attached. So head on over, quitefrankly.tv, powered by Foxhole, and pilled.net.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to intermission.
We'll be right back.
Yeah, intermission. Yeah, intermission.
We're now entering, quite frankly.
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 We all support quite frankly.
Not quite.
Quite frankly.
Let's go, Brandon.
Quite frankly, in Roma, Italia. Quite frankly, you're going on Frank's show tonight?
I want to get a Coke. Can I get a Coke?
So everybody watch, quite frankly, with Frank.
Quite frankly. How dare you?
All right. Opening up the second half with a little late night jazz from Grammatic. This story from The Bachelor is just getting me randy. I love it. But I mean, only from an observer standpoint, it is entertaining. Like you said before, it is a horror show if you find yourself in the middle of something like this. And thankfully, I've only ever read about shit like this. But of course, there are red flags all over the place from the beginning of it. Now, we're here with Megan Fox, and I just want to just jump right back into this, and then we'll do some other stuff along the way. So Megan, what we left off with here is a situation where there was other times that were at the pregnancy phase with the twins, but this was not the only time she tried the pregnancy/twins thing. So as of right now, has it been confirmed she is not pregnant?
She is not pregnant.
Okay,
No.
just take it from there.
All right. So here's how we find out that she's a serial accuser. She does make good on her threat to go to the media after Clayton refuses to sign her dating contract, which is crazy.
A dating contract. That's like something out of The Office.
Yes. It is. It's like, you have to date me with intention for this specified period of time. And, then she's saying all these things about, and we should definitely have sex. And it's just bizarre. It's really weird. Telling him, I'm the safest person to have sex with because I'm already pregnant. So you might as well have sex with me.
Oh, she was trying to actually get pregnant.
Yeah.
She was actually trying to get. Wow.
Definitely. So
diabolical.
It's diabolical. So she goes to the Sun. She does. She goes to the Sun, and she sells them her story that Clayton Echard, here's all of his private messages. Now, she cherry picks through the DMs where he's angry, right? And he's like, I don't want anything to do with you. Because if someone treated you like this, Frank, you would be like, no, I don't want anything to do with you. And you would tell her that. Like, he kept telling her, listen, I'm not going to have a baby with you, even if you are pregnant. I'm not going to, so I won't be involved. Like, I'll send you a check or whatever, but like, I will not do it. Either I will have custody or you will have custody, but we will not have a baby together. Those are the messages. Now, this is after trying to get him fired, after he knows he thinks that she's lying to him anyway. She did take a positive pregnancy test, like a P-stick test, at his house in front of him. So he started to believe that she was actually pregnant. And it was positive. But there's a lot of reasons why a P-stick test could be false positive.
Right.
For one, she's on epilepsy medicine that has a history of you can get false pregnancy tests. It could be that. It could be she faked it. I don't know.
It could be AIDS.
Wait, really?
There isn't. I mean, that would not be better. But I just say it. There was a lot. Of back in the day. There was a lot of false positives for HIV and pregnancy. There's a lot of crossover there. Well, there's a lot of hormonal stuff all over the place, and then of course we're talking about PCR tests again. Anyway.
So he gets to the point where he wants her out of his life totally, and he needs a restraining order. She has already gone to the Sun. The Sun is such a rag. They talk to him, and he shows them his evidence that she couldn't possibly be pregnant, and they don't care. They say, well, we're not going to use this because we like her story, basically, more than yours. And he even said to them, he said, yeah, but you're going to ruin my life. And they said, well, any news is good coverage. You're fine. You'll be fine. So they go forward with it, and now he becomes the most hated guy in Bachelor Nation. All of the Bachelor Nation podcasts, there isn't anybody except 2 people who believe him. So all of Bachelor Nation is turning on him, and if you know anything about Bachelor Nation, there's like an entire world of Bachelor news, right? There's podcasts and YouTube channels. Oh, yeah.
I did not know.
There's a full-on community of news just centered on The Bachelor, ABC's Bachelor show, and all their spin-off shows. So around in that community, he is a pariah, and like he's being vilified everywhere for being this really terrible guy who got some poor girl pregnant and now won't have anything to do with her. So she's done everything to him she could possibly do. So he goes to a court to get a restraining order against her because he's basically saying, you won't show me any doctor's reports. You won't let me go to the doctor with you. So I don't believe you're pregnant, and I don't want to hear from you until there are babies that we can test. And she won't stop. She opens up new email addresses when he blocks her. She gets new phone numbers when he blocks her. And so she's constantly harassing him. Over 500 email messages in like a span of a month and a half. So he goes to court and he petitions a judge for a harassment order, restraining order against her. And he doesn't have a lawyer. He's pro se, and she does have a lawyer. What he didn't know was that it was being live streamed. And Dave Neal, he's got a great podcast, a Bachelor podcast. He's a comedian and he has a Bachelor podcast and a YouTube channel. He's been following this story, and so has Reality Steve. And Reality Steve is one of the old Bachelor news guys. He's like one of the founders of the whole genre. And both of these men have been saying there's something wrong with her story. But they're the only two in the entire Bachelor Nation news organization, that believes him. And he doesn't even know that they're watching this live. And people are watching it and they're like, and she's behaving so bizarrely. She's wearing what looks like a stuffed belly, a moon bump.
Oh,
and it's
no.
Oh yeah, and she's moving it all over the place and like adjusting it and stuff. It's outrageous. So after that hearing, everybody's like, "Oh my God, we got to get this guy a lawyer." And so Dave Neal's audience starts fundraising for him, and they get him enough money to hire a lawyer. Well, he hires a lawyer, the best badass lawyer he can find in Maricopa County. And it turns out that his attorney has had a run-in with Miss Owens before.
Oh, this is getting good.
Oh, yeah. His attorney tells Clayton, I represented another young man in your exact situation, and we just got done with it. Like, it's just over with. And his name is Greg Gillespie. And he finds out that this is going on with somebody else, and he starts, he connects with Clayton, and they trade stories. She's literally doing the same thing. She did the same thing to Greg Gillespie. Dating contracts, pregnancy with twins. I'll abort. If I don't hear from you, I'm keeping the babies. Like, literally, she would say stuff like that.
Now, with the Gillespie guy, is he also in Maricopa County?
Yeah.
So she didn't even leave. She's doing this to multiple guys in the same county?
Oh, then there's a third. And a fourth. And a fifth.
You know what? I know that you very rightfully chased all the children out of the room when we started talking about the fellatio situation, but I hope that especially the kids have come back now so that they can take notes about the kinds of people that are out there and the red flags you have to somehow find a way to train yourself to spot, especially when you haven't seen them before, and the naivete in dealing with people. This is 5 other cases.
Yeah.
Wow. How does she not get thrown in jail after 2?
Get this. Well, because her father is Ron Owens. He's a famous radio talk show host in San Francisco. So he's famous for the area. And they had, their wealthy family. Her mother's a journalist who also was on the air in San Francisco. So they have a lot of connections with the San Francisco, elite. So she's been put in the same circles as a lot of NFL players, as a lot of athletes. And it turns out there is an NFL connection here with her. She's done this to other men people would recognize, at least one other man people would maybe know. And I can't say who it is because it's just a whole thing right now. Okay. He doesn't want to come forward. His lawyer's been very threatening. And he doesn't want to come forward. And I get it. Although at the same time, it's like, listen, Greg Gillespie lost a year and a half of his life, $180,000. And he's just a normal guy in court. She drags these guys to court. She took Clayton to family court for paternity like a month after she said she was pregnant. And the court system is so damn dumb that they allowed her to file a paternity claim without proving she was actually pregnant. And that's what she did to Greg Gillespie, too. She drags them to court.
Has anybody been able to do an in-depth interview with her or psychoanalyze it? Because even an interview would allow everybody else to psychoanalyze her, take a look at her body language. I would love to know about her past, her home life, like what turned her into this. This is such it's just crazy. It must be like living in hell because you haven't had an honest, I don't know. I mean, you're not a real person. You present nothing but false fronts to everybody, and you're running a very, very crazy scheme, and you're done it 5 times with no even thought about even moving from state to state before you do it again. I mean, that's not even a real person there. That's like a runaway computer program. That's just like a skipping record or something.
Yeah, she did it in San Francisco to the first victim. So she was still in San Francisco then. And there may have been a second one there. Still not sure about that. But then when she moved to Maricopa County, there were at least 3. And no, no one has ever done an interview with her, although I forgot to add this interesting tidbit. She's a podcaster. And it's a mental health podcast of all things. It's called Nobody Told Me. And one of the doctors that she interviewed actually went on Reality Steve to talk about this case and say, like, because she'd been on her show, I think, twice, and she didn't really give us much insight into Laura in particular because, mental health professionals aren't supposed to remote diagnose. But there's a lot there. And yes, many of us would like to see her interviewed. Everybody's like, listen, you've got to just come clean. That's how you get out of this, is tell people, I have a mental illness problem and I have done some bad things and I'm going to go get help. That's how you get out of this. Because I forgot to even tell you, because this goes so nuts, Frank.
Is this her?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to
That
find...
was from a video that she made on Facebook about how she was being so poorly treated by Reddit.
Oh, okay. So
And those are the same faces she made in the court case, by the way. She's very expressive.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to find a picture of her. Okay, go. That sums it up. Go ahead. Keep going, Megan.
Okay, well, so she drags Clayton through months and months of paternity. He gets the restraining order against her. He finally gets it, because after he gets a lawyer, during the second hearing, we all find out that she's done this to other people because his attorney, brings up to the judge, listen, she has a history of doing this to men, and I want that on the record. And the judge won't let her put it on a record. But we all find out about it. Dave Neal's been covering it. He's in contact with Greg Gillespie. Now we're getting Greg's files, reading through all of those. So we all know she gave both men fake sonograms that they found on a reverse image Google search from a blog from 2014. So she's taken somebody else's twins, somebody else's sonogram, and tried to pass it off as hers. She was seen in September jumping horses with a flat belly because she's a horse jumper. She's a horse girl, which probably doesn't surprise some of you.
No.
And in October, at the end of October, beginning of November is when that first hearing was with the moon bump. So she went from being completely flat. She's very skinny. She went from being completely flat bellied in September to big belly in the end of October, which anybody who's ever been pregnant knows that did not happen. She says in this November hearing, she's 100% pregnant with 24-week-old twins. This is very important, 24 weeks old. Because in Arizona, and we're all thinking, when is she going to tell him she had a miscarriage? She's obviously going to have to say, I had a miscarriage at some point. But after 24 weeks, you don't get to it's not a miscarriage, it's a stillbirth. And in Arizona, it's illegal if you don't have fetal death certificates after 20 weeks. So we're like, how is she going to get out of this? Sure enough, December 27th rolls around, 1 month later after the I'm 100% pregnant. Her lawyer puts in a new motion that says, motion to dismiss, my client is no longer pregnant. So I want this all to go away now. And of course, Clayton and his attorney are like, no, you're not going anywhere. You've dragged my client through hell, and we're going to see this through because we're filing a non-paternity. Now we want evidence that he was never the father. In between all of this, she had taken 3 DNA tests, paternity tests, 2 of which came back little to no fetal DNA, which means there was no baby at all. And the third one allegedly got lost in the mail. But that still wasn't enough evidence for that stupid family court judge to be like, okay, she's in contempt. This is all based on a lie. So they go forward with the case. The judge rules that she will not dismiss it. She says, no, we're going forward with this because there's too many questions that need to be answered. And you need to show up for your deposition because she had skipped on her deposition. So the judge orders her to sign HIPAA releases, which she wouldn't sign, so that Clayton can get all her medical records. And the judge says, you need to show up for your deposition. Clayton already was deposed. He's not withholding anything. He's given over all the evidence. She refused to give up any discovery, and she wouldn't show for the deposition. They finally get her deposed. And I don't have the recording of it yet, but it's going to be amazing. But what comes out from there is Clayton's lawyer just recently, here's the biggest update, just published a motion to compel evidence because there's still evidence she's withholding from them. But not one doctor she claimed she had seen. And she was claiming, I was at Dr. Higley and I have a high risk pregnancy and I'm seeing Dr. McCool and here's where they are. And, they know all of my records. Every single one of those doctors came back with no records. She's not a patient of ours.
So, and where does this leave off with compelling to them to show any evidence that there actually was a pregnancy?
Yes, because she claims in the deposition that she had a miscarriage but didn't know when. And then in the deposition, she said that in front of the court, in the court hearing, the one before that. But in the deposition, she said, well, I passed two, all right, people, this is gross, but just hang in there. She passed 2 fetal sacs the size of fists sometime in September or October. She can't tell you what day. And a telehealth medicine doctor told her she was fine and she didn't need to go to the hospital.
Just someday doesn't understand, but does this meet that threshold of needing a death certificate though? Or is she trying to say?
But because she won't say a date, it's like it's iffy. We know there is no fetal death certificate. There isn't one on the record. She also said she took a picture of the remains and sent it to her sister and her mother. She refuses to give the picture though to the lawyer. Of course.
And so you're going to have is the recording going to be made public soon? You're going to be able to listen to this soon?
Yeah.
Oh, I have to listen to it. You at least have to give me, when you're listening to it, please write down timestamps and then pass it off to me so I can go to all the best parts. And we have to do an update on this. We really do. And I had something over. Is it true? Somebody in the chat room, Olaf in the chat room, just said that Owens was one of the most popular AM radio hosts in the Bay Area?
Her dad.
Her dad.
Yeah, her dad. Okay. Her dad was. He was a very famous guy in the Bay Area, big-time radio talk show host. He's very ill now. He's 71 or 72, and he has not Alzheimer's. He has, it's one of those, Parkinson's, something like that. Not Parkinson's. It's one of those degenerating illnesses. Mm-hmm. He's been ill for a long time. We don't really believe that he has much knowledge of what she's been up to. I think he may have known about it in the past because there are text messages from him to men that she was involved with, and she's very manipulative. She will threaten to unalive herself if she doesn't get her way, and she has manipulated her parents into believing that they have to say yes to her all the time. Or Laura will hurt herself. And you kind of have to have some sympathy for these parents because I think if you have a mentally ill child, I can't imagine what that's like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really can't. And so they're doing what they can, what I guess they know what to do, and they give in to her. That's how they deal with her, is they give in to her.
Well,
and they wanted these men to give in to her too. Like there's a text message from Ron Owens to, I think, Michael Maricini, who's one of the Maricopa County victims, that says, please just do everything she asks you to do and I'll help you get out of it later. But just do it now because she's threatening to hurt herself.
Oh man, the poor parents. But then again, you don't even know the full story. That's what I was saying. A really in-depth interview for a person like this who acts like this. That is almost like I brought it up recently with a friend I did a show with, and I asked him, we were talking about authenticity and what is really most interesting about new media today, and I said that I think it's more so about interviewing just everyday people and just trying to find out what makes everyday people tick, especially people who have problems or they find themselves in crazy situations like this where they're just habitually doing these types of things. And I brought up what is it called? Soft White Underbelly. Have you ever watched any of the interviews on Soft White Underbelly on YouTube?
I have.
I think you would. Yeah.
I just saw one for the first time the other day. It came up in my algorithm, and I clicked on it, and it was very interesting. It held my attention for the entire time.
And they interview people just off the streets, people who have had triumphant stories over whatever, or they live very weird lifestyles, or they've been to jail, or they're prostitutes, they're hooked on drugs, whatever. This, as you have described Laura Owens here, I said she needs her own soft white underbelly. I mean, I gotta understand. I gotta understand what the hell's going on.
Well, she also wrote a bunch of Medium articles about this and came forward and put her own name out there. And then she wants privacy. She claims that she's entitled to privacy even after she came forward with these allegations. She's the one who contacted the press. And, this is an underlying thread of this story that people really have to understand as well. You're not entitled to privacy when you come forward and you make allegations against someone. You are now opening yourself up to the anal probe that Reddit is going to do. Period. If you wanted privacy, then you should have stayed quiet. You should have stayed a private person, but you didn't. And so, you can't complain now. She went after Dave Neal, by the way. She tried to get a harassment order in a California court against him just for reporting the story of this.
You see, this is a situation where anybody who is involved in a crime or any kind of operation like this more than once, even if it's not the same exact thing, but you're obviously running a con, and this is part of your personality, and there is especially a twisted. Right now, you could say, well, what's the financial end for her? I don't know. I mean, obviously, having a baby comes with huge financial responsibilities, but this is more so emotional, relationship, slavery, that kind of thing, controlling another human being. Obviously, there's a lot of benefits there for a manipulative, psychotic type of person. The second time that they run a scam like this, there has got to be the involvement of a mental health institution. It can't just be you're ordered to probation and some therapy. You got to be living somewhere.
She probably won't even be given that. Frank, let's be totally honest. That doctor, the psychologist that talked to Reality Steve, who had been on her podcast, she was very clear when they were asked. She was asked, "What can happen? Will there be any repercussions? What about institutionalization?" And she said, "Oh no, she won't be institutionalized. The only type of people who get institutionalized are people who cannot function in society. She's functioning just fine. She's not only functioning, but she's manipulating the legal system. She doesn't meet any of the thresholds for institutionalization because she's clearly aware and fully functioning." And it's too bad that that's the bar. The bar is pretty high to get you institutionalized, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's pretty telling because the bar that you just described right there is the bar to entry into a criminal culture. I mean that it's one thing. Oh well, she knows how to pay all her bills, and she can put one foot in front of the other, and she can even drive a car. But but you're talking about somebody who is functioning. She's functioning too well. She's manipulating everybody around them and creating a fake baby mafia. It's like that's not functioning. That's completely antisocial. That's
it is. But guess what? It doesn't appear to be criminal. So maybe we need more laws because she's not going to be the most we can hope for her for consequences is that she's held in contempt and sanctioned for the way that she has behaved in this case and lied under oath. She committed perjury multiple times. The judge has the power to give her legal consequences that require her to pay fines, but that's about it. There's no prosecutor on earth who would go after her for the extortion that she has committed, the fraud that she's committed. There isn't a prosecutor anywhere. You know why? There's too many murders, too many big time crimes going on. So a woman like her, and in fact, Clayton was told by elected officials and by officials in the prosecutor's office that they don't prosecute cases like this because they're worried that it will stop real victims from coming forward.
Wow. That's all you got to say. That's it right there. Megan, I know that you haven't been on since before the holidays in an official capacity, but these little nights that we spend together where you come in and you just lay out all of the highlights of a couple of really awesome, seldom covered by average people, things that are happening in courtrooms around the country. We got to do more of this. These stories are incredible, and we don't get them often, and they are so enthralling and exciting and crazy.
Full of double blowjobs. You just can't get this anywhere else.
Can't get this anywhere else. I mean, it's just everything. You're talking about all different new ways of inseminating a person.
It's like learning sex ed all over again. I thought sex ed was too much in the public school system, and now clearly it's not enough.
No.
If we have people out there thinking they can get pregnant through fellatio.
That's it. That's it. What is the public school system really there for? Is it to teach kids, or is it just to completely cloud them? Anything is possible. That's what the public school system teaches us now, Megan. So of course,
that's true. You can be whatever gender you want. You can change your body from this to that. These are all lies that are being taught to children, and we expect them to grow up with a real sense of what's possible and what's not. I guess we shouldn't, because we're already teaching them some real pie in the sky unicorn fantasy shit.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So next time you come on, we're going to have to get a little bit of an update, just a real quick update on these last two, the Florida story and the Bachelor fake pregnancy story, and God knows what else is going to happen.
I'm going to be there, by the way, on June 10th. So the hearing is the trial is on June 10th, and I'm flying to Arizona, and I'm going to cover that in the courtroom. I will be there. So you can pay attention to my YouTube channel. I'm Megan Fox Writer on YouTube, I think. I don't know. You'll find me. I'm sure Frank has a link somewhere. But find me at meganfox.locals.com for sure, because that's where all my stuff is posted, and that's where you'll find links to everything. And I'll be there in June.
My bad. Hold on. I just your trailer started playing.
My trailer started playing.
This is Megan on YouTube. It is Megan Fox Writer on YouTube. But I do have your Locals link in the description of this episode. Do you want me to swap that out to something else?
No. Locals is fine. That's where I get where all of my stuff goes. That's who gives you the best notifications, by the way, because YouTube is asshole and they never send out notifications when I'm live. So if you want to know when I'm going live and what we're talking about, you got to go to Locals anyway. So meganfox.locals.com, and I will be covering this trial live in June 10th. There's going to be a bunch of us there. Dave Neal's going to be there. Hopefully Reality Steve will be there. Recovery Addict is sending his cameras, so we'll have cameras in the courtroom. It's going to be quite an epic day.
Oh, I can't wait. Now I'm hooked, and you know what? After that is all done, let's just quickly figure out a day for you to come back. Maybe either in late April. I'm booking actually the last week of April now into May, so maybe May you come back.
Sure.
Anyway, it will be a lot more steady in this new year. It's still a brand new year for us, Megan. So with that. If there's anything else you want to tell people, go right ahead. But otherwise, I hope everybody goes and checks you out on YouTube and on your Locals and everywhere else.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Frank. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
It's a pleasure. I had a great time tonight, and I think everybody else had a fun time too. I'll probably rerun this on Saturday night because it was that fun of an episode.
It's always fun when you can talk about double blowjobs. I'll tell you what.
I know, and have it be in an official court. You can't say that.
It's in the record.
We're not being perverts here. It's in the court record. So
it's in the record.
Give me your reason. Just give me your reason. All right, Megan. Have a great night.
Frank.
Thank you. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Checking all those boxes tonight. Okay, so we're going to do. I have some more media here. I have some more media. What does it sound like when I cough when it's in this? All right. I got to try to remember to put that on before I start coughing. All right. So great time with Megan Fox. Wasn't that great? I love doing all of those stories, and it almost feels like the basis of some of those radio bits I've heard people do over the years, where they bring some kind of a beat writer on or something like that, or I don't know, a tabloid writer, a journalist or something, a tabloid journalist, and they do a bit where it's just like, okay, well, I'm going to give you 4 stories and you tell me which one is bullshit. You know, is it real or is it fake or something like that? I almost feel like we're getting set up for a bit like that when Megan comes on and does those little roundups, but it's actually all real, and I think that makes it almost more fun. But maybe one day she would be down for doing something like that, coming in, giving us 3 stories, breaking them down over the course of maybe like 40 minutes, and then everybody gets to vote on quickly which one is the fake story, and we get to reveal which one was the fake story. So maybe we can do something like that. If you guys and gals promise not to use the internet to your advantage, don't do it. Okay, so here's a couple more things I'd like to do. First, let's take a break, and when we come back, I'll play some media with you, and then hopefully we can take some calls.
Have you ever seen a beautiful, well-dressed woman dancing and getting down on the dance floor? Amazing, isn't it? Excuse me, miss. Where did you get this fabulous outfit from?
Well,
They always say they got it from Divine Rags at Wolf Chase Mall. Beautiful women. I'm fascinated always. I'm fascinated more by a well-dressed woman. Do you shop at Divine Rags? Maybe you too might fascinate me.
Welcome to Perpetual Health Minute, brought to you by Quite Frankly, life expectancy. The United States is one of only 3 major countries to have a decrease in life expectancy in the last 2 periods measured. Now, the CDC says to be healthy, all we have to do is drink less, smoke less, exercise more, and eat right. Well, the problem is Americans have done that. We've smoked considerably less. We've been exercising more. Alcohol consumption is on the decline since the 1980s. And in terms of nutrition, adherence to the dietary guidelines is actually up. So what does this mean? Well, few can argue that exercising more, drinking less, and smoking less are keys to health. So that just leaves nutrition. So in my opinion, nutrition advice has been flat out wrong for over half a century. And that is why I am here. That is why I do what I do, to help educate you on ways that we can turn this ship around and get the United States life expectancy back on to a proper path. If you like this video, please follow the new Perpetual Health Rumble channel. You can also find us at perpetualhealth.substack.com. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and back to the show.
Okay. My gosh, to think about the fake pregnancies and to use the twins, the concept of twins, and then you have to think about timelines for miscarriages and you have to fake that whole grisly, horrible thing. How are you comfortable? You have to be insane. That's sociopathic stuff right there. You can say psychopath, sociopath. I mean, you actually need to be numb. You have to be numb to human emotion. It has to be something that you actually cannot really engage with. It has to be. You know, perhaps you've been able to watch people around you that have some normal balance to their emotions and their expression of human emotion, and you can try to employ different performances at different times, and you become a little bit more of a social chameleon in that sense. But it can't be for real. You can't actually have any stable human emotions to be able to do this time and time again, and to be every time involved with courtrooms and judges and to know that your life is dangling. Maybe it's the thrill of the hunt where you're the hunted. You know you're doing something that is either going to be a really, really big payoff, even though the odds are infinitesimally small, or you are just going to get punished by daddy. Daddy being the government. But I don't know. I think someone like that needs to be in a mental institution. All right, let's see what's going on with the super chats, and then I want to jump into some media. We have 25 minutes. I think that's just enough time to do it. I don't think we had any Rumble rants. There was no Rumble rants. Jay from Sweden is out there, says, just watched the Boondock Saints this weekend for the first time in like 15 to 20 years and noticed your thumbnail for tonight's show. Weird synchronicities is always a good sign, right? Here's a tip for the great work that you do. Peace and love from Sweden. Thank you so much, Jay. It's good to hear from you again, my friend, and I hope all is well out there. Yeah, Boondock Saints is probably one of those classic vigilante stories. And when you open up talking about vigilantism and you talk about the squatters that's going on, and you know, there's those people in Queens, the woman in Queens that we were talking about last night, 2 men have since gone back there to try to investigate what's going on with the other people. You know, they're calling them vigilantes. One had a Trump shirt on, and they want to get these people out. And there are people who are asking, well, is this what the norm is going to be? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's only going to escalate. You can't stay on the side of these types of vermin. You can't stay on the entirety of the system cannot stay on the side of the vermin. You can't do that shit. You can't expect it to happen. You just can't. It's the only logical progression. We always talk about what you want to happen and what logic dictates will probably happen next. And the reality of something may not be very flowery and nice to consider, but it just seems like, how the hell are we going to avoid this outcome? All right? How are we going to avoid it? Now, I approach life with a lot of optimism because, you know, when you have children and there are options, ways that you can maneuver yourself as a family unit, as friends or whatever, in an open marketplace, you know what stuff you can, with more knowledge, you know what you could avoid, and maybe you can move to somewhere else, and you can hope for more localized action to overtake all of those once very lofty goals about a federal government that is to put back on track, a Congress that is constitutional, a president that is constitutional. It's nothing but vetoes and cutting and shrinking and shrinking. No. There's a lot of things. And this all goes hand in hand with managing those expectations, because the out of control government and the out of control, centralizing of all global power centers, that all goes right down to the root. Now, the root of all of that stuff has always been the cultural subversion. And at the root of that is the tinkering and the completely pulling people away from what should be normal, stable life. What that has everything to do with stable family, which has everything to do with stable children, which has everything to do with very stable societies and polite societies, being able to defend yourself. This whole disarmament thing is a big attack on law-abiding citizens who should be a major line of defense against people who are out there to do harm in public, because you can't have just everybody take their hands off the wheel and let a fraction of the population, the police, help everybody to your liking. So the fact that they are destroying and pulling that all away, it's no wonder why we are living with the calamity that we are. And of course, over time, people are going to do exactly what they have to do. Exactly what they have to do. Unless, of course, you've been groomed into the mindset that property ownership is vile and inhumane. This is exactly where we're heading right now. To forcibly remove the vermin from a house like that is the only ethical thing left to do once all other options have been not exhausted, because they haven't been exhausted at all. They've been abandoned. You know, when the police show up to arrest you for changing the locks on a bum who snuck into your house to take a shit, then the police are complicit in the crime as well. And that's why I asked the question. Is it really vigilantism when authorities not only abdicate responsibility, but serve the criminal? You know, you can say, oh, it's a vigilante. Let's say the cops are just overwhelmed. They're trying their hardest, but they're not able to get ahead of some huge criminal syndicates that are just, let's just think of Gotham City and all that stuff where they're, let's say that there's just an overwhelming criminal element that the police, they love the city and they're trying like hell. Some of them are very corrupt and all that. So there's that local grift and all that shit. It's all happening, but otherwise they're trying. That's not happening anymore. I mean, we're talking about police that are serving the criminal. So is that even vigilantism? Because there's no law enforcement there. There's no legitimate authority there. Hey, that's just a question for the armchair philosophers out there. I'll just give it to you for a little bit. You might agree, you might disagree. Jay Britt says, I enjoyed Megan Fox. Thanks, Frank. Oh, I enjoyed her too. We got to have her back. We have to do more of that. Thank you, Witchy Poo. Thank you, Just Jesse. Chai Possum, Boys Blanc, a lot from Witchy Poo, Delona, and JSF, NAFTA must end. Boys Blanc, Witchy, Porpoiseful, Just Jesse. They're getting me over here. ATD 1204, thank you so much for the gold pills, my friend. It's great to have you out there. Tomcat, Delona, Chai Possum, Dark Heart Hemi says, I heard an attorney in front of the Supreme Court say, turtles all the way down. I play Borderlands in-game. Turtles all the way down. Great research from Megan, says Keith. Yes. Yeah, when you take a story like that at the surface level, which is entertaining and odd and interesting and shocking as far as the judge's behavior, and you just do a little bit more prying and you see that the tentacles go out all the way up to the governor's mansion, 2 governors, Scott and DeSantis. That's some interesting digs right there. And there's Matt 1776 throwing cookies around himself. Kobe Wan says, here's a can to wash those tonsil twins down. Gross. Jay Sem says, great show, great week, thank you. And Just Jesse, thank you for the cookie. All right, but on to crime. This is what we're getting from the FBI now. Take a listen to this. The headline from the National Pulse: it's just disorder. Expert says that crime is down and blames public perception on what's going on all around us right now. University of Chicago criminologist John Roman argues Americans are misleading themselves into thinking that crime, especially in cities, is running rampant by their perception of disorder being associated with danger. Disorder is associated with danger. Safety is associated and connected with stability. 100%. A society that is stable, that you can pretty much predict trends and behavior and what's going on. I mean, that is, what is he talking about? Again, this is an agent of the system that is there to gaslight on behalf of the criminal element that is being built up and is being invested in actively. They're actively investing in the criminal element in society. People confuse disorder and crime, so the presence of a lot of disorder can signal to regular folks that they are in dangerous place when they aren't necessarily in a dangerous place. Roman told NBC in a recent interview, arguing that while American cities may be more chaotic, crime itself has gone down. Bullshit. Bullshit. Roman's comments come on the heels of a new bullshit FBI crime data which shows slight drops in the rate of murder, reported crime violence, and theft in 2023. According to the University of Chicago criminologist, the drop was partly fueled by renewed law enforcement funding and a return to pre-pandemic norms. After a terrible period of underfunding and all that stuff, it's getting back. Listen, I was just seeing this the other day. It's about New York City. Where the hell is it? Where was it? I know I have it around here somewhere. Might as well just throw this into the mix because they're undercounting all of this stuff. You know, they rolled out the National Guard in New York City, to try to curb all of the violence that's going on in the subways and stuff like that. And of course, I wonder, anybody out there that takes public transit in New York, do you actually see the presence of the National Guard? I mean, there's always been a couple of guardsmen just walking around, but with the big media thing, the display of putting troops inside of this place as if they were occupying it, you would have thought that the stabbing, the slashings, the shots, the gunfire, nothing stopped. And they're even saying here that they're undercutting. All the police are saying they are completely undercounting what's going on. And there's other things going on too that people are uncovering right now. There have been little sleuths on the internet that have been going into state criminal data and even analyzing the way that certain criminals are categorized by race. They're finding that there are just by skimming the top, and they're being all displayed on, in these master threads on Twitter and everything like that. Black men listed as white, brown listed as white. Like, you can see that there is an effort. You can't say it's all just mistake. There's just so much going on with the crime data here. It's just like when they come out and they say that the economy is humming. It's stronger than ever. There are so many jobs added. Just tell yourself, does it feel good? Does your gut tell you it feels good? Crime is just incredible. And of course, they want everybody to be a target to it. That's why we're talking about a border situation. It's not just about a couple of rotting neighborhoods that have been underfunded and the police have kind of drawn back. It's about flooding an entire union of states with millions of people who have no allegiance to anything except where they're going to get their next prize. Listen to this. Since we're talking about crime and everything tonight, here's a little bit from the Young Turks. Like I said, Anna Kasparian goes nuts. She says, "What the F are we doing?" Because they're talking about this New York, this law, where if you're caught even dismembering a corpse, obviously you don't have to pay a bail. You don't have to pay bail. Listen to this. Dismembering? It's 3 minutes long. We'll get to just the biggest things, then we'll get into some other impeachment stuff.
Dismembering a corpse and hiding a corpse after dismembering it, not bail eligible, not a serious crime. I'm not even kidding, guys. Like, when Joy Behar outlined that case, I was like, she's crazy. This isn't a thing. This isn't real. So I looked it up. It's real, guys. It's real. Listen, if being on the left means supporting this, then I'm not on the left, and I'm okay with that. So let me give you the details of the case.
It doesn't mean that.
Okay, I don't know. Let me give you the details.
On the left. We're all on the left. We don't want people dismembering folks getting released. Only a couple of lunatic.
Some do.
Shut up, Cenk. Stop minimizing this to a couple of lunatic this and that's. Okay, dismembering is an extreme case out of all the assaults and all the violence and all the emotional instability and all of the root. You can just tell the root has been cut. And what is the base of that root that has been cut? What was that, all that root supposed to be really sunken into? Into all of the real human institutions. The natural institutions like family and faith and just being able to work, being free to work, your own ethic put out there. No, none of this nannying, terrible stuff where the natural world is replaced by these progressive ideas, these progressive bureaus and departments and these programs that are supposed to take the place of naturally occurring nutrition for the soul. That's it. So that's just what it is. Some people want to be able to become a little bit more free and individual and have those rights for smaller units of people, the family, the individual, to be completely protected from all of these ideas, because it's not that anybody who lives on the opposite side of the Young Turks are living like barbarians. It's just that, they may not waste time, and they'll connect directly to the source. They'll concentrate on things like you think that the people who the 4 people who cut these people up had a good background? You think they had an easy time in life? What are we doing with this? What are we really going to start talking about shit here?
Some do.
I know. What I was in the middle of saying is only a couple of lunatic activists are like, yeah, we're pro-dismemberment guys being let go. Okay, whatever. You don't represent the left at all.
Dismembered bodies. It's so unfair to put them in prison. Okay, let me give you the details of the actual.
Again, the activists who are pro-dismemberment law, you think they're the ones that got the law passed? There's something else there. There's something else there in the inside. Somebody high up want these protections from normal people rolled back. Protections like bail. That's just going to keep somebody who doesn't deserve to be walking the streets, probably at all, from going back out onto the street within hours of committing some kind of a heinous crime. So this is not about lunatic neckbeard activists in Brooklyn. This is about people with actual power to implement this stuff that are just doing it because it's part of somebody's plan.
Case, okay? So 4 people were arrested in New York after body parts were found in Long Island. Okay, dismembered body parts. The victims were, 2 people from Yonkers, older individuals. Suffolk County Police say 44-year-old Stephen Brown, 38-year-old Jeffrey Mackey, 40-year-old Amanda Wallace, and 33-year-old Alexis Neves were charged with concealment of a corpse, tampering with physical evidence, and hindering prosecution. They have not been charged with murder. Prosecutors told a judge there was so much blood in pipes, sink, shower, and toilet of the Railroad Avenue home in Amityville where the suspects were arrested that it was deemed uninhabitable. Police said they confiscated meat cleavers, butcher knives, flesh, and body parts. Attorneys for Brown and Mackey admitted that their clients lived in that home where the body parts and all that blood was found, but denied chopping up the 59-year-old woman and 53-year-old man whose last known address was in Yonkers. Wallace also lived with Brown and Mackey in Amityville. Police said that Knives is homeless. Okay, all 4 pleaded not guilty. The judge released them without bail. They were fitted with GPS monitoring and must report in-person probation and surrender their passports.
I don't care about their passports.
Dude, guys, like what? Okay, so did further research because I just couldn't believe it. Here's more. With 2019 state reforms, mutilation and disposal of murdered corpses are among crimes that are no longer bail eligible. The DA said the 4 went to barbaric lengths to cover the crime. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing, Cenk?
Oh, don't ask him. He's thinking about his next Philly cheesesteak. But, I feel like Anna has these moments every couple of months. And I wish it stuck. I wish it built into something else. I don't know. I guess I don't pay enough attention to them to see if the needle is really moving. Cenk, forget about it. But Anna, I feel like she has more public moments like this, and I don't know what's going on, but that's something. That's something there. It's one of those things where if you keep going so far to one side, you come back around to the other side, maybe some equilibrium. You say that the pendulum swings one way or another, then finally it just swings back down. It comes back, and then maybe it'll set. Hopefully, all that momentum, it just settles into the middle again. I think right now that the pendulum is swinging so far left that it may go over the top of the pendulum and come back around, and it may look like it's coming from the right, and then it's. I don't know, but that was interesting. Interesting, piled on top of a whole lot of barbaric, nightmarish shit. So much blood in that house that it was unlivable. They caked up all of the pipes. Man, Hope so. I gotta stay. There's so many things I gotta stay on top of. Friday night when Fleckus comes on, we're going to be having the main theme of the evening is going to be memory hold news items. Now I have a thread. This is a thread that I've been working and been building just on Twitter, and I have also been just writing some notes down with myself. It does not have to be 2024 memory hold items. You can tell me the biggest memory hold news items out there from years ago, from wherever the hell it was. It was a big story. Was it the 60,000 pounds of explosives that went missing on the trail, on the train rail a year and a half ago? And still nobody knows where it is. They could blow up the Rocky Mountains with it. It's just all gone. Is it TWA 800, which we're going to be premiering a TWA 800 marathon after tomorrow night's show. Thank you to the Rumble channel, All Things Art Bell. That's going to be great. So things like that, you got to go and check out. This is another one of those, like these murder stories. Any of these stories that you hear once, you're like, what the hell are you talking about? And it's gone. It's just gone with no apparent resolution, or it was grossly underreported. Just wanted to throw that out there because I hope we run into some kind of update with this story. Because the fact that they are not being held on bail with the bail is so ridiculous. It should be $80 million bail. I think excessive bail is good sometimes. All right, here you go. It's 8:57. Let's do a couple of Tony Bobulinski, shall we? Here you go. Here is Tony Bobulinski. Remember, this is the guy who came forward around in 2020 when we were talking about first getting whiffs of what was going on in the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, 50%, 20%, 15% to the big guy thing, in all their dealings, not only in Ukraine, but in China and beyond. And Tony Bobulinski was a big part of just blowing that thing wide open. That thing that was blown wide open and then subsequently suppressed by a full-throated effort by American intelligence agencies to make sure that that does not pose a problem to the already grossly unpopular Joe Biden in that year's election. Bobulinski is back, and he's here at this impeachment committee, oversight committee on impeachment, which I am only watching highlights of for moments like this, not because anything's going to come of it. To be doing this in the middle of 2024 in the lead up to an election, I mean, this is just ridiculous. But it's pretty cool to see a guy like this just take it to people. Here he is confirming that Hunter Biden perjured himself during his deposition.
Biden gave his transcribed interview on February 28th and lied throughout his testimony. Here's just one egregious example of Hunter's perjury. He lied to the committee on important details concerning his money demands and threats to CFC in text messages on July 30th and 31st, 2017. He leveraged his father's presence next to him in that infamous text to strong-arm CFC to paying Hunter immediately. Jim Biden also lied extensively throughout his transcribed interview on February 21st and perjured himself. An example of that, on page 100 of his transcript, Jim is asked specifically, do you recall having a meeting with Hunter Biden, Tony Bobulinski, and Joe Biden? Jim's response, absolutely not. The committee was so shocked by his perjury that they asked him the same question multiple times. Each time he denied meeting with me and Joe Biden. After the committee showed him text messages confirming that I met with Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and Jim Biden at the Beverly Hilton in May 2017, Jim Biden, with a former U.S. attorney lawyer sitting next to him, still denied that meeting took place. Hunter Biden, in his own transcribed interview, confirmed that that meeting took place. Hunter confirmed his uncle perjured himself in front of this committee. I'm simply here to tell the truth to the American people, and I hope.
And that's, I mean, it's full of stuff like this, and of course, you get little moments like this when he called Jamie Raskin a liar to his face. This one is from LL Akuba, putting all this stuff together. Let's see here. I loved when he called Jamie Raskin. He's a rat face fuck. And here he is. 2 more minutes of Tony Bobulinski.
Yet the same people preaching this mantra know better. They continue to lie directly to the American people without hesitation and remorse. Rep. Dan Goldman and Jamie Raskin, both lawyers, and Mr. Goldman, a former prosecutor with the SDNY from New York, will continue to lie today in this hearing and then go straight to the media to tell more lies. Hunter Biden's defense attorney, Abby Lowell, weaponizes letters to Congress to try to smear my name
Mr. Chairman.
misstate the cold hard facts.
Mr. Chairman.
In an attempt to save his powerfully connected client and his father. I challenge Mr. Lowell to make those claims on national television so he can be held accountable for his lies. Prior to my successful business career, I was an officer in the United States Navy. At Navy's Elite Naval Nuclear Power Training Command, I later served as the command's chief technology officer.
Proceed. I apologize for the disruption from the feed.
Okay. Am I supposed to say it's my time, Mr. Raskin?
Yeah. But please, Mr. Bobulinski, please come to order. Mr. Bobulinski, please proceed.
Okay.
Please proceed. I apologize for the disruption from the minority.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it saved his time, but he called members of this committee liars, and I just want to know whether the order and decorum requirements of House Rule 11 apply to witnesses appearing before the committee.
Which, of course, rat-faced Ratskin knows it doesn't. You know, other committee members can't demean other committee members. That's a very well-known House rule, and just all things. It's one of those decorum things. But if somebody is there to say that, hey, members of this committee itself are liars, and I know, and I'll tell you why they lied, then that is the claim, and you can go ahead and say that. But of course, Ratkin is just a real piece of shit. Real piece of shit. AOC was there as well. This was his little way of trying to stall things, even though it didn't do too much. But listen to this. This goes on for like 5 minutes. We're not going to play anywhere near that. Thank you to Memology 101 for getting this out there. So Bobulinski goes and says a little bit more about confirming what he witnessed and what he was around, and then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez goes on for 5 minutes, screaming, being petulant, and making less sense than Aurora does when Aurora goes on a rant. Sometimes Aurora, you know when a 3-year-old will just, like they're making a point and they really want to make a stand for the day and they want to show you, I don't know, and you just like look at them like, oh, wow. Like they're throwing everything they have into this performance. Good for them. Well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is like 30-something years old, and she's still doing that, and she makes less sense than a 3-year-old. And especially that this meltdown, as Memology says, comes after the fact that all the reasons why you're doing this hearing, or why you would hold this hearing, are being perfectly laid out. She goes on this rant saying that there's no reason to do it. Listen.
Mr. Bobulinski, I heard your opening statement. It's submitted to the record, part of our proceedings. I have a quick question. Simple. Is it your testimony today that you personally witnessed President Joe Biden commit a crime?
I believe the fact that he was sitting with me while I was putting together a business deal.
Did you witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is simple. You name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO and conspiracy.
What is it?
He's answering her. Did you see him witness a crime? Yes. What crimes? He's going through corruption, RICO, and this is when the petulant, I auditioned for this job years ago. I am a complete Netflix fabrication of a person. That's when the whole act really kicks into gear. And like I said, we're going to go just a couple of seconds back, and we're going to let this run out for maybe another minute, because you can just take what you're going to see right here, times it by 4. That'll be the entire clip. She's a worthless windbag.
A crime.
I believe the fact that he was sitting with me while I was putting together a business
Did you
deal,
witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
Yes.
What crime have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is simple. You name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO and conspiracy.
What is it? What
FARA.
is the crime, sir? Specifically.
You asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category. What is the
It's a category of crime.
It's a category. Exactly. It's a category of crime. Look at that bird brain. She knows she has 4 minutes that she has to fill up somehow, but it doesn't matter because there's a switch where it's just like autopilot. Words will come out and that's it. Some idiot out there will clap and say, "Go get him, girl. Go get him, girl. Go get him, girl."
That you're then charged.
You have charges.
A long 100.
You have charges. Sir,
wow.
please
name the exact statute under RICO?
Yes.
Well, it's funny. In this committee room, everyone's not here. There's over 18
all right, sir, I reclaim my
lawyers
time.
that went to law school.
I reclaim my time.
You guys
okay,
to
thank
define
you,
the
sir. I
statute
reclaim my
under
time.
RICO.
Clearly, what we are seeing here today.
That's what it is. And she took out her claw. Watch out. What she's seeing here today. What she's seeing here today. Watch out! Watch out! She's got the claw out. Watch out, everybody. Please, mind yourself. Ask a question. As soon as the answer starts coming, just keep asking the question. And as the answers keep coming, keep asking the question. Keep badgering them as if you're, this is I don't know what the hell it is. Pride and Prejudice or something like that. Anywho, this is the clown show. These are the people who have invested themselves into being a human shield for the worst future that you can imagine for your children. That's what they're building up. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one slat on the human shield of liberal madness that is there to provide time for the insanity to grow, to take root, and to take over. That's it. There's no sense in this. I really feel for the people who watch this that have to report on it. And for the people who watch it just because they had nothing to do, my God, go outside for a walk. All right. That's it for today. Tomorrow we have the Collins brothers on with us tomorrow, and that is going to be another really great night of talk radio. We'll talk about black swan events and transhumanism and technocratic dystopia and all that other good stuff. It has a little bit of UFOs, a little bit of aliens involved. It's going to be great. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself tonight, and I hope you enjoy tomorrow. Kobe Wan says, here's a can. Oh, more tonsil twins. Thank you so much to Brew Bark. Says, great show, Frank. Bring the Andreas ammonia theft into the light. The Andreas ammonia theft into the light. Yeah. Well, go on to the pinned thread, the pinned tweet that I have on my Twitter. It's at Quite Frankly TV. Right there, pinned to the top, is the memory hold thread. Anything from the last, I don't care how many years, something that came into the headlines, was reported on once, there was something to it, never heard from it again. Massive story. Or maybe it seemed like a small story that you think that could have been the top of something else. You know, think about Eyes Wide Shut when Bill is inside of the coffee house the night that he opens up the paper and he sees a beauty queen has died. For anybody else who opens up the paper, they look at a beauty queen dead and they like, oh, that's sad. She had everything going for her, beautiful, but those damn drugs, man. And Bill is the only one with the eyes to say, I know who the hell this is. I don't think this was an overdose. That was the girl from the party. Just saying, I know you guys and gals dig deep. Okay, thank you to all my friends out there. I will see you soon, soon being tomorrow. And thanks again to Megan Fox for another great appearance on Quite Frankly.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Quite Frankly is filmed before a live studio audience, and now our super chatters, starting with Jay Brits, Jay from Sweden, and our wonderful gold pillars who are getting the scratching released on their asses right now. Have a wonderful evening, ladies and gents. We will see you tomorrow. I hope that your night is a cozy one, and tomorrow we get together and it's even cozier. Thursday nights are great, aren't they? Good night.
Goodbye, my dearest. Toodaloo. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Ding dao day.